This is a very basic tutorial for the starting locations in Conquest. While some of you may be wondering why this is necessary, it seemed that there is no actual current source from Hi-Rez on how to start in Conquest, and I felt that quite a lot of people don't exactly know how to start, so I figured why not make a simple video on it. Even if you know how to start already, there's some details in here that some of you may not know yet, so this might be helpful for you anyways. Let's begin with the invasion locations. Even before the game starts, you can get a head start by making sure that you won't get invaded. The white dots on the map are the places from where duo could get invaded. The black dots on the map are the places from where solo could get invaded. In these spots, you can find enemies sometimes. So if you rotate around there with your teammates that are starting on that side, you can make sure not to get invaded and that way get a better early start. Let's begin with the mid and duo lane start. Mid and duo lane both start at the red buff now. There used to be a time when the hunters started at back harpies, but now that golden bow is gone, hardly any hunters can do this. So what you want to do is you want to have either your hunter or your mage pull the red camp towards the edge of the camp and then let your support tank it. The mage should then position himself as close as possible to mid lane so he can pick up the buff and move there right away. When the big minion of the red buff gets low, the support should unleash it to the mid laner, so go out of the radius of the camp so the mid laner can take over the aggro, so that the red buff will walk to the mid laner and drop right at the edge of the camp, so he has the shortest way possible to mid lane. The mid laner will then move into mid lane, clear the first wave, and potentially rotate out for a mid camp right after, depending on the clear of the mid laner. Otherwise, he will try and wait for the jungler and clear the camps together with him. The support and hunter, so the duo players, will move on to the boars. The hunter should ideally pull the boars first, so there's a period of time where no one takes damage, but the hunter can already deal a damage to the boars. The moment the boars reach the edge of the camp, the hunter should step out not to take any further damage, while the support should be in range so that the boars aggro on him and he soaks up the rest of the damage. Then both move on into duo lane. In solo lane, things are a little more complex. Unless the solo laner is a ranged character, the solo laner should not pull the speed camp. If he is a ranged character, then he can pull the speed camp to the edge and then leech the aggro over to the jungler, as once again the jungler will take less damage then. So in most scenarios, the jungler will attack the speed buff first in order to take the aggro and take the damage, simply because the jungler can heal up with Bamba's mask. When the speed buff is cleared, both move on to the blue buff. This is probably one of the most misplayed parts I've seen when clearing jungle camps. The blue buff is a ranged camp. That means whoever aggroes it and tries to pull it anywhere is going to take damage while walking there, meaning it's not very helpful if you take damage and you can't deal damage in return at the same time. So what you want to do is let the solo laner, regardless of ranged or not, pull the blue buff. He should then walk up towards the way into lane and stand at the very corner behind the stone wall. This will lead to the ranged minions having to come out of the jungle camp because they can't attack around corners. They will then walk very close to lane, and from there on, the jungler can take over the aggro, so the solo laner can walk out of camp range, and the jungler stays in, takes over the aggro, and the camp is killed. That will help you a lot because the buff is dropped right in that place, very, very close to lane. And also you have a period of time where the solo laner isn't really taking much damage, but the camp is walking around and the jungler can deal damage to the camp. This start will ensure that you get to lane before your enemy if he doesn't do the same start. After that, when you get to lane, you should try and clear as fast as possible. Shortly after the first wave is cleared, the fire elemental spawn, where both the jungler and solo laner should go and clear them together, ideally. After that, the solo laner goes back to solo lane and starts clearing waves as usual, whereas the jungler moves into middle and tries to contest right mid camps if they're up. If it's too risky to contest, he moves straight to the mid lane and then onto left mid camps. From here on, it's more of a situational thing, and this is explained better in my jungle in-depth guide. I hope this overview helps you with your starting routes in Conquest and makes it a little less complicated. Thank you guys for watching. Sloth out.